From the stuntman who manages a loop on a 19-meter high loop to this group of Saudis who change the tires of the car while it is driving on the highway, here are the most talented drivers in the world. On September 14, 2015, in Frankfurt, Germany, the prestigious car brand Jaguar celebrated its 80th anniversary in a way that made a mark on people's minds, as well as the Guinness Book of World Records at a car show. British stuntman Terry Grant was chosen to debut the Jaguar F-Pace SUV that day. The stuntman had to perform a vertical loop on a 360-degree loop and 19 meters high, a challenge never done before. Yet, in the Jaguar F-Pace, the driver was confident and he started on a slightly elevated track before attacking the impressive loop. The tricky part for him was getting physically ready to defy gravity. One can imagine that to prepare his body for these conditions, Terry Grant had to do a lot of sports. He also had to reach and maintain a specific speed to be able to finish the loop. This speed was about 90 kilometers an hour. In these spectacular images, we see the masterstroke of the British stuntman, who goes through the loop as easily as if it were an amusement vehicle. This feat has earned him a place in the Guinness Book of Records. However, if from the outside the looping seems easy and graceful, on the inside it was another story. Indeed, the British stuntman must have had strong backbones since his vehicle endured a vertical acceleration greater than that endured by space shuttle pilots at the time of takeoff. One understands it better by seeing the pallid face of Terry Grant just after. But he was able to savor his record afterwards, which certainly did not harm the evolution of his career. A few years later, we find again our stuntman Terry Grant, but this time for another performance and in another car. Jaguar was showcasing the E-Pace, which was to compete with the Mercedes GLA, the Audi Q3, and the BMW X1, and other cars with a slightly aggressive style. Terry Grant had to achieve another record for which he had trained for a long time, jumping 15 meters long while doing a barrel roll. A stunt as spectacular as the previous one. Terry Grant first had to roll 160 meters in order to catapult himself at the right speed from the steel ramp. In the impressive images, we see the vehicle in the air perform a 270-degree roll before landing heavily on the wheels, but without bouncing and without suffering damage. This new performance has been certified by the Guinness Book of Records. Terry Grant has achieved the largest rollover ever observed in a production vehicle. However, as in the previous record, the stuntman must not have felt only pleasure at the moment of the spin because of the brutal deceleration. And one can imagine the stress he must have been under before this difficult performance, since the smallest detail determines failure or success. But history will remember Terry Grant's new record, to the great satisfaction of the car manufacturer Jaguar. Naturally, we would not advise anyone to repeat these stunts. The images you are about to see seem to be fake, so much so because they are unbelievable. They show a group of half a dozen Saudi Arabians driving on a road in the middle of the desert on board a Toyota FJ Cruiser. This group of friends tried to show an innovative and bold technique to change the two wheels of a vehicle without stopping it. We first see the vehicle snaking along the road and making big swerves, obstructing the traffic of cars coming the wrong way and which had to move on the sand. After that, the driver, continuing his race, managed to hoist the car on its two right wheels, allowing the group of Saudis to get out and then stand on the doors. As the car continued to run, these young Saudis, barefoot, calm and happy, began to unhook the two tires without even making the unstable vehicle wobble. A few seconds later, and the trick was done. We see them all proud and happy celebrating their little feat. But should we say so? While this is a fun and original technique, it is also inconsistent. The maneuver is dangerous both for the passengers and for the other drivers. In any case, this is not the kind of driver you would like to meet on the highway. Anyway, this bunch of crazy friends will laugh at this little adventure when they see these pictures again. In the region of Liguria, in the northwest of Italy, a tourist bus driver has an unusual experience, which is the headache of all bus drivers. The driver of this tourist bus of a Swiss company did not want to do things by halves. Instead of stopping at a bus station, he probably preferred to drive the passengers to a hotel or a tourist destination. But the old streets of Italy are not known for their width, and the curves in particular are so narrow that it happens quite often that short-sighted car drivers get stuck in them. But this bus driver doesn't care. We see him on the pictures appearing at the end of a narrow and winding alley. The tour bus laboriously tries to slide out without touching the walls of the house. As you can guess, this requires great precision in the maneuver and a little luck, because the smallest clumsy movement could have caused the vehicle to be blocked, or a disruption of the schedule at the company would certainly not have appreciated, or even various damages. If the driver managed to get out of the jam, one may wonder if such an undertaking was really worth it. A wise driver is the one who takes the least possible risks, not the one who gets out of a complicated situation in which he has thrown himself, don't you agree? This little stunt surely amused the passengers as well as the residents of this street, leaning out of the windows. Let's go now to the Andes mountain range, a mountain chain of more than 7,000 kilometers and which crosses 7 countries of South America in the west of the continent. If this mountain range is a marvelous and unique place in the world, it is also one of the most difficult roads for vehicles to travel. In Peru, one of the men in charge of navigating these roads is called Glorioso Albanida. This man makes a so dangerous job that the BBC devoted a report to him. This Peruvian is called a hero by the locals. He has been driving trucks since he was 14 years old, and his experience and know-how have been consolidated over the years. Naturally, it is a job he loves and still wants to do. The passengers, who have to go to the villages located in these mountainous chains, rely on the infallible skill of this Peruvian, who considers himself protected by God. One can understand that he is convinced of it, considering the route that he accomplishes every day. The road he takes, narrow, tortuous, uneven, and overhanging the void, is so abrasive that the tires of the bus must be changed regularly. But fortunately, no accident has occurred during his perilous crossings. Glorioso knows how to keep his cool and tame his fear. No one is better suited than him to brave the dangers of this road that claims thousands of lives every year. But the passengers, guided by Glorioso, are so calm that they sleep during the journey. However, Glorioso cannot allow himself the slightest distraction, the slightest inattention. His extreme vigilance is what earns him the respect of all. On the other hand, if the road network is dangerous, it is not the only cause of the numerous accidents in Peru which, for example, in 2011, caused the death of 1,124 people and injured 2,583 people. It is also necessary to say that the buses which make these long trips are old and that the police controls are rare and ineffective. The government does not take the situation lightly and calls for stricter control of the tourist companies so that they do not send tired drivers on these dangerous routes. Glorioso Albanida, however, does not have to worry. He is an example for the others. These images, which seem to come straight out of an unrealistic action movie, come from the United States. We see a probable fugitive driving what seems to be a blue sedan. He must have realized that he was being chased by the police, and he used all his driving genius to try to lose them. The images show the circumstances of this impressive chase filmed from a helicopter or drone. For more than a minute, the fugitive drives at breakneck speed on the highway, avoiding and passing all other cars, but he was soon joined by police vehicles who try to stampede and disorient him. This is where the show really begins. Not only does the fugitive in his blue sedan manage to get ahead and avoid the police's bumper-to-bumper blows, but he manages to pull off an impressive spin before braking hard, leaving the police far behind, carried away by his run. The car then started up again and continued its crazy race as if there had been no obstacle. The second police vehicle will have no more luck than the first. Thanks to the same pirouette, the fugitive managed to divert it, freeing the way again. He is definitely a master at driving. But he was defeated by the relentlessness of the police. The first police vehicles managed to disorient the sedan, which lost speed and was then better controlled by the police. The policemen, who surely did not appreciate to be so humiliated in their self-esteem of driving, were particularly aggressive to the point of mistreating the blue sedan. Finally, a few moments later, this one, cornered and trapped, had nowhere to escape. The police officers then proceeded to the muscular arrest of this driver who had given them such a bad time. We can only see such spectacles in the United States. We don't know who this bandit is, but we can only deplore that he was not a stuntman or a race car driver. Driving a heavy truck requires a lot of vigilance and skill. But pulling off tricks with such a hard-to-maneuver vehicle is the work of a smart driver. Here are several amazing sequences from different countries where we see heavy trucks struggling with all kinds of obstacles, expected or unexpected, natural or extraordinary. These truck drivers, with their impressive talent, probably just wanted to carry out the professional missions and transport goods or park in dedicated areas. But between the place of departure and their destination, they found themselves confronted with situations that can frighten inexperienced drivers. Indeed, we see the first driver on board a straight truck, trying to cross a river in flood. We see another one on board a semi-trailer overloaded with tree trunks, approaching an extremely tight curve, and which apparently is at a certain altitude. Or that one, expert in the steering angle and who wants to park his heavy truck in one movement. All of them succeeded in their attempts. The first truck happily approaches the other shore. The semi-trailer, engaged in the bend, succeeds in continuing its route, and the last driver manages to park in a very short time. But these incidents are not without reminding us that these drivers, however competent they may be, take ill-considered risks and put themselves in dangerous situations for themselves or for others, sometimes by violating the regulations in force. It is not by chance that the laws governing the driving of heavy goods vehicles are so strict and precise. In Europe, truck drivers are set minimum rest periods and maximum driving times, and if these limits are not respected, severe penalties are applied. Depending on whether the employer or the driver is responsible for the fault, either of them will have to pay a fine. This fine can be up to 1,500 euros. However, they have fulfilled their missions well, and we hope that they do not have to face these dangers every day. This is the end of the video. Which one of these drivers seemed to you like the most talented? Don't forget to give your impressions in the comments section. And if you like this video, don't hesitate to like it, subscribe to our channel, and activate the bell so you won't miss any of our next videos. See you tomorrow, same time, same channel for the new videos.